GreensideDawah.com/donate.
When it comes to the reality of marriage, marriage actually is based on sometimes our understanding. You know, when you come to a relationship, everybody wants to bring their baggage and their standard with them. And we all bring with us a lot of understandings of the relationship, how it's going to work, how we're going to do things, and so forth. There will be a lot of clash of personalities sometimes that causes so much damage to the relationship. These things, what I call the myths of marriage, or common misconceptions about marriage. I shared some of them on Khutbah al-Jumu'ah, and I would like to go over them real quick before we move on to the 5 stages that every couple had to go through in their marital relationship. So some of these misconceptions, and perhaps some of us sitting here right now or even watching and listening, they actually perhaps they have these misconceptions when it comes to marriage. Number 1, we believe that marriage will make me a better Muslim. So when people, they want to get married, they think that I'm so bad, I want someone to rescue me, I want a savior. So that's why when brothers and sisters, they come to me and I say, what are you looking for? The first thing they ask about, they say, someone who's religious. I said, why? Well, you know, I need someone to help me out in my ibadah, my salah. I said, this is great, but if you're already weak in your ibadah, you're going to become liability on them. That means if you need to improve your ibadah, you need to start right now before you get married. Yes, you need to find someone who's religious and it's going to make you a better person, but you have to work so hard on yourself first and foremost. You cannot just throw your spiritual failure on your partner. That's going to create a lot of friction in the relationship. You don't wake up for Fajr, she gets upset with that because this is the father of my children. How is he going to set a good example and model for his kids, specifically if you have boys at home? And he blames it. Why didn't you wake me up? He goes, well, you're supposed to be waking me up. You're the man of the house. Well, I get tired at work, and we start throwing all these lame excuses. If you know your Fajr is your Salat al-Fajr, it's your responsibility to wake up for her, not your wife. Same thing the ladies. Don't say, well, alhamdulillah, I married a good guy to help me out with Salat al-Fajr. True, but you need to make sure that when it comes to your ibadah, your individual worship, it's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2, we believe, or some people believe, that marriage will protect me from falling into the fitna. Marriage will protect me from falling into the fitna. And I've heard that from so many young people, particularly men. Men, they're more visually oriented people, so they look after the image and the scene, and that's why many men, unfortunately, they are tried with pornography and haram these days. Whether it's over the internet, videos, whatever it is. Actually, it's subhanAllah, even it chases them out more than they even try to pursue it. It's almost everywhere you go. Whenever you open the internet, there's something over there that leads the shaitan to take you that route. So they think that in order to protect myself from the haram, I need to get married. Thinking that just by satisfying their desire, they're not going to follow that route. Well, the bad news here is that a sin is a sin. When someone commits a sin, it's a sin, regardless of your marital status. And you have to work on fixing that between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Same thing with the sisters. She's having a hard time. She's having a hard time just maintaining her iman and her deen because she always longs to get married. So she was trying to talk to this guy and that guy and chat here and there and so on, and now she wants someone that she can secure her and her iman. Well, if you keep doing that, it doesn't matter whether you get married or not. You're going to keep following that path because it has nothing to do with your relationship. This is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are misconceptions and cause so much friction between men and women because we all depend on the other party to help me improve in my deen and my iman. Next, many people, they believe that marriage will make me live happily ever after. As I said, this is part 2 for you. Part 2, it's your own hard work. If you think that marriage by itself automatically makes you happy, it will make you happy temporarily because you're just living in this emotional high moment right now. But then once reality sinks, that's when you start rationalizing your actions, your feelings, and everything that you do. You can live happily ever after, but it's by choice. And I'm a strong believer, I'm a very strong believer about this statement, that you can live happily ever after, but it only happens in one place, ya jama'ah. That is out of this world. That's in Al-Jannah. You will live happily ever after in Al-Jannah. That's the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are a good believer, true believer, and your spouse also and children were true believers, they will follow you into Al-Jannah. Also, some people, they believe that in marriage, you just cannot hate the person you love. Because we're in love, we will never suffer any problem, because I cannot imagine my spouse will hate me doing anything or for doing anything. So that's why we take it for granted, and we start bargaining with love by misbehaving. You start misbehaving, expecting that your spouse, because he or she loves you, that khalas, you know what, they're going to have to accept, I have to do that. We don't realize that, yeah, but still, they have responsibility towards one another. When it comes to love me, it's a different way. We're going to explain that inshallah at the next point, bi'idhnillah azza wa jal. Next, there's a misconception, great misconception amongst women, is that marriage was made for the benefit of men only, which means men take all the privilege and women are just there to be subordinates and just be enslaved in the house. Well, if you believe that your marriage is that way, then 80% of your expectation will take place in your relationship. If you come with this perception, you're going to achieve that 80% in your marriage. For the guys, the same thing. And I've seen among the young guys, mashallah, who had a wonderful, wonderful mother. They have seen a wonderful mother in their life. So when they get married, they get tempted to copy the model of their mom in their lives. Meaning they always see their mom and their wives. And when their wives don't fit that model that they built for themselves, they get irritated with her. Why don't you do that? My mom used to do this, subhanallah. Why don't you cook like this? Why don't you dress like that? So they always try to copy, their mom's model. And that becomes a big issue between a husband and wife. And same thing with the ladies, as I said, when they come with this perception about marriage, that it's all for men, and they give up they don't do their part, because for them it's a given role. And there is nothing you can do to change it. They don't realize that there is so much they can do to improve their relationship, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. One thing also I notice about this, when it comes to marriage, that really many people, they think it benefits men more than women. And it's a cultural thing. In some cultures, that when a woman, she moves from the house of her family and she moves into the house of her husband, that means she divorces all her past relations with her family. Or at least that's what the husband expects of his wife. Khalas, don't talk to your sister, I don't like her, ya akhi. I don't want to see your aunt coming into the house. I don't want you to do this, I don't want you to do that. Well, my cousin is getting married. No, we're not going to go there. How about this, how about that? And he expects his wife to be absolutely obedient in this regard. He wants her to start loving his sisters as much as he loves her sisters. That's not fair. That is not fair. I mean, there's difference between respecting your sisters versus loving them, just like she loves her sister. It's not going to happen. It's just like you're asking her to love her father as much as you love yours, which becomes sometimes difficult. There's always, again, a clash of personalities, and sometimes, priorities in the relationship and so forth. So that's why I'm saying, for men and women, you need to change your perception of that. It's not just for benefit of men, it's for benefit of all. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about marriage, He didn't say, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ الرَّجُلِ وَبَيْنَ نَفْسِهِ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. He didn't say it's He placed in the heart of a man peace and tranquility. He said between your hearts, for both men and women. And He said mawadda wa rahmah is between both men and women. You cannot just attribute this to yourself and just to deprive your partner from the privilege of this marriage. You have to be fair and follow the rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said for both men and women in a relationship. Now, the reality of marriage. There are 5 stages you guys have to go through when you get married, whether you like it or not. I'm not saying all these stages are pleasant stages, but these are realities. So the reality basically of marriage is that the first phase, I made them in 5 phases. The first phase is the in-love phase. The in-love phase. The in-love phase, it's all about emotional high. It's all about emotional high. It is the moment that every girl waits in her life for this guy who comes galloping with this beautiful white Lexus or Mercedes, and then he come to her house and he will say, would you marry me? And the more we watch TV, the more we fantasize about all these unrealistic things to happen to us. But eventually, if it does happen, khalas, for her, alhamdulillah, the entire world suddenly starts revolving around this guy. It's everything about this guy. Same thing with the boy. The moment his heart locks, with this girl, khalas, everything starts revolving over her. Even when people and his friends calling him, he just goes, immediately and just turn it off right away. He puts it on flight mode so that no one would call, because I'm busy right now. Busy? MashaAllah. When was those days when you used to call and say, guys, I'm bored, let's go do something? What happened to these days? What happens to the time you wasted all these hours on Facebook just to have some sense of belonging, to some sort of virtual community, not even real community? What happened to those days? Now everything revolves around their love. So everything they will do will focus on them. SubhanAllah, just like again bring us to Hajj. Brings us to Hajj. Why do you think we make tawaf around the Kaaba 7 times? Why do you think when we pray we have to face one direction? What is that? It is symbolic to reflect our deepest needs to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make it the center of our life. That's the meaning of this. When you make your tawaf around the Kaaba, you're making the center of that circle. And the center of that circle to you would always pull you, as we all know, it pulls you towards the center. Whenever you go around the center, it keeps pulling you towards that center. That's natural physics. Same thing when it comes to ibadah. When your ibadah is all around the Kaaba, it keeps pulling you towards the concept and the symbolic thing that is the Kaaba, to the deepest need to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have a relationship with Allah azza wa jal. When it comes to your love, it's the same thing. When now your lover right now become the center of your life and the center of your relationship, you're gonna pull all your affairs towards them. So everything becomes around them. And that's when you start seeing them perfect. And that's when people, they tell you they're wrong and they're not true about what they said. You cannot even see that because you're in that what we call emotional high. During the emotional high, of course, people, they present the best of what they have. You will have the best face ever. You are so good, you're so nice, you're so sweet, your words are awesome, even your grammar is perfect, even if it's whatever it is. People, they will forgive you because they just like you. Even the statements, the choice of words might be so blunt, but at the moment, it just, oh my God, this is so romantic. You don't see beyond love right now. That's what we call it, love. It fluctuates. It extends months, sometimes years. Marriage therapists, they say the average time, span basically, or age of that in-love period, it's 2 years. That's the average. You can extend that, expand it, you can shorten that. It depends on how you behave in the relationship. That's the first thing. During those times, as you know, everybody is bringing the best. Like what? Gifts, dinners, nice time, spending attention to each other, love cards, love notes, gestures, text messaging, whatever. You do everything just to show that. So that's the first phase. The second phase, the honeymoon. The honeymoon phase right now. The honeymoon phase is when you have your nikah done. When you have your nikah done, now you are allowed to become more intimate. Even if you don't consummate the marriage yet, which means now you can come together, no hijab, you can put makeup, you can become more explicit in what you say. You start basically living that beautiful future that you're planning and you're building together. And then when you consummate the marriage, now you're living in this heavenly bliss. This is honeymoon. The honeymoon, the most important, or basically the unique characteristic about the honeymoon phase is it's the exploration phase. I call it exploration and excitement phase. Because during the honeymoon, that's when you start becoming very observant of what they do, what they see, what they say, how they say it, and everything. You become so observant. Even the way they cough, the way they sneeze, it sounds cute for you. The way they brush their teeth, it's awesome. The way they cuddle themselves in bed and they curl themselves and they cover, it's so cute, so beautiful. Everything is so cute. Even subhanAllah, just the most ridiculous things will be just wow, a reflection of love to you. It's beautiful, it's nice. But then with that new phase, of course, an exploration phase, you would realize that not everything is as perfect as you thought. You know, that's when the first day you wake up at night, it says, what was that? I thought I heard some sort of like somebody, like a motorbike outside, or you realize it's just lying next to you. It says, I didn't know he snores. That wasn't the marriage contract, ya akhi. And you start looking for the marriage contract. Does it have any 90 days, you know, return policy? Too late for that. But that's now when you come to the real test. This is when the guy, he wakes up, he looks, the first time he sees her without makeup. He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And who's that? That's when you realize that, this is the real face I'm going to be seeing for the rest of my life? So, what's going to come next? And of course it moves on and on and on. You know, the sweet talk is going to start becoming more serious because now you're taking each other for granted. The lady who was very loving, now becoming so demanding. And the guy who was so loving, he becomes so also, you know, kind of trying to become the man of the house. So authoritative. He wants to prove himself. And she would tell him, excuse me, relax, man. Take it easy, what's going on? And he wants to prove himself the man of the house. So now when you start exploring these things, we come to the third phase. The third phase is what I call the disappointment phase. Believe it or not, it's a disappointment phase. What does that mean? Does it mean that it's going to kill marriage? No. It doesn't necessarily that's going to kill marriage, but it's going to wake you up. What does that exactly mean? Every man and woman, when they come to marriage, they come with what? With high expectations. High expectation for what? High expectation for themselves, high expectation for their spouse, high expectation for that entire relationship. They're going to come with this. So it depends on your expectation. When you see the reality of marriage, you feel really disappointed. So subhanAllah, you know, I didn't marry this guy. I married someone else. What do you mean by these words? That means I'm disappointed with you. That's when you start seeing the guy struggling with Fajr Salah as much as you do. That's when you see him, he's always, you know, lazy about these things as much as you are. That's when the guy realizes that he's weak in front of the TV like his wife is, and all that stuff and so on. That's when they see the reality of life. It's a disappointment phase. You know, disappointment phase, an inescapable phase of the marriage. But what you could do is moving on to the next phase, the fourth phase, which what I call adjustment or compromise. When it comes to disappointment phase, people, they take one of two routes. One of two routes. Number one, they become so stubborn, and they want to force their rules on their partner, that to the extent that they're willing to break it than make it. And I've seen those people. They just stay together for about 4 or 5 months only in the marriage. And then because of some ego issue on both ends from man and woman, then they split. And they were willing to live away from each other for almost a few months more, if maybe more than a year or so. And finally they would like to divorce. Why? Because it's not going to work like this. But you didn't try it yet. Yeah, we did. 4 months? Hello? We've seen people for 40 years. You haven't seen anything yet. You're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to adapt. And that is when you need to move on to the next phase, adjustment phase. The meaning of adjustment phase, I'm not asking you to lower your standard. What I'm asking you is really to adjust your standard. Meaning bring the standard, your expectation of your spouse a little bit low or higher, and then yours higher and lower, depends on the situation that you're in. You have to work on adjusting to the new reality of marriage. The faster you go through the adjustment phase, the easier for you it's going to be, inshallah ta'ala, to move to the following fifth phase, which I call autopilot. Autopilot phase, which is the smart navigation. Smart navigation techniques, because marriage is really like a journey. You're in a boat or on an airline, and you're flying in the air, just sailing in the ocean. You're going to have to come through the ups and downs. There are so many surges that will be very high, it's going to be windy, it's going to be difficult, and you have to be a smart navigator in the relationship of marriage. Many people, they only think of the destination. The moment they see difficulty, what do? They want to go through it quickly before the time is up. They want to go through as fast as possible before the problem catches up with them. They don't realize that as they try to go through, they're going to perhaps hit something that's really solid, that's going to break them, not just slowing down. So that's why a smart navigator, when you see a problem, you go on, even if it's going to take longer. Never mind. It's going to be a sacrifice. Will there be sacrifice here? It's okay. I'm going to have to pay the price for this. That is fine. But it's going to bring you safe back to the exact same route later on. That's basically the autopilot. You just keep it running smooth. And it adjusts to the differences that will happen in the relationship. That doesn't mean you're going to have always rosy and flowery days. No, you're going to have some bitter days as well. But those bitter days will make you appreciate all the sweet days that you will see afterwards, inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. Next, what men and women they need the most in any relationship. What men and women they need in any relationship. If you just have random answers, Jama'ah. Ladies, what do you want the most from the man? If you want to summarize this in one word, what would that be? Money? What is it, Jama'ah? Love? My daughter says love. Basically love. Most men, if you ask them, they say love. However, that's in theory. But in reality, they give you examples to what love is for them. And if I ask the guys, what do you guys want the most from your wives? What is it? Yes. Respect. Respect. The man, they know what they're looking for. Because it's only one thing. Just give me that, I'll be happy, inshallah ta'ala. Women, they will love a lot of things, right? So men, they want respect. They want respect. However, if you ask men what exactly means to them, because for women, when you tell them, I need respect from you, they have it they understand in a certain way. But for men, it's completely different thing. And we can explain that inshallah ta'ala later, bidnillah, when we talk about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I want you to see, what I want you to know over here, that when it comes to love a husband, for the ladies, to love a husband, it is to show him the respect in ways that are meaningful to him, not to you. Meaningful to him, not to you. And for you guys to show women what they ask for, which is love, in order to show them love, you have to show them love in ways that are meaning to them, not to you. Based on this, if you ask men how they explain respect, another word for love in their dictionary, of course, I actually made that, I posted some of it on Facebook already. Last weekend I had a class, and I asked the group of the students, they were close to actually 880 students, and I asked them in small groups to give me exactly what do they consider loving actions, what men consider loving actions and what women consider loving action. Wallahi, it's amazing how men and women they think, subhanallah. Believe it or not, the top loving action that men scored, that scored with men, what women were looking for, the top loving action, which is interpretation to respect in their dictionary. The top, can you ladies think what could be the top loving action that interprets respect to them? What could that be? They said the number one that came out was cooking good food and clean up. Cooking good food, and explicitly good food, not any food. Cooking good food and clean up. That's called the top loving action men demands from their wives. And when you ask guys, what do you like? What exactly are you looking for from your wife? Respect. So how does respect and cooking and cleaning the house, work together? The ladies, it doesn't make any sense to them. How could you put these together? For the man, it says, well, when you cook for me, that means you show me respect. When I come and the house is clean, that means, alhamdulillah, you respect my desire to come when the house is clean and ready. It's a show of respect to them. Again, if you want to show respect to them on their terms, not yours, you need to understand that. Now, when it comes to the ladies, the top thing that scored with the ladies, can you guys guess what could be? I had many different interpretations from the ladies because they have a lot of things they want to express. But the top thing that they told and they said it was thoughtful gifts. They said thoughtful gifts. And what's the meaning of thoughtful gifts? It's not about the gift, it's about the word thoughtful gifts. Thoughtful itself, which means to be spontaneous, to be kind, to be nice, to be gentle, to be caring, to think about me all the time. It's basically all this enveloped in the word thoughtful. And then they put gifts right there. That's why they don't care about the gift as much as the thought that came with it. For a man, a gift, it has to have a price tag on it. For a woman, it's the sentiment that came with it. the sentiment that came with it. When you were walking into any grocery store and you saw this chocolate, even if it was on sale, even if it was 2 for 50 cents, and you got it and you go back home and you tell your wife, this is for you. And you goes, wow, why you brought this for me? It's not like she's testing you. And she just wants to see what is the feeling behind it. What provoked you to do that? You would tell her, well, I was thinking about you and I know that you love this chocolate, so I bought it for you. These words worth $1 million, right or wrong, as sisters? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Of course, that doesn't mean they're not going to take the $1 million if you offer, yani. But let's begin with that. The sentiment, thoughtful gift, something that shows that you really care. Doing that, that is love in their dictionary. That's how they understand love. You need to show them love on their terms, not your terms. For a guy, when he wants to show love to his wife, what does he do? He does his stuff, right? I'm going to cook you barbecue today, inshallah ta'ala. That's what they do. But I want something else. I want 5 minutes of your indivisible attention. Can you give that to me? Well, I'd rather actually do the cooking for you. Because for them, this is how they interpret love. Same thing for the sisters. When a wife, she wants to show love to her husband, she does something she thinks it's loving, right? And for a man, it might be irritating. Because this is not what I see respect. You don't respect me when you do these things to me and so on. So eventually, please, 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 when you talk about love and respect, you have to interpret that, understand that according to their terms, not your term. When we come back, inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala, after Salat al-Maghrib,